back, Exes and T podcast fans. Hey guys, it's Danny here, and welcome back. You guys, I try my best every episode just to tell everybody how grateful I am for everybody's support, for everybody's willingness to either share their story publicly or share their story to me personally, or shout out to people who have sent me audios anonymously. Y'all are the best. But I'm really excited because when I started this journey, I really didn't have any idea just how big this was going to get and how many people I would get an opportunity to connect with. And actually, I'm really excited because yet again, I have another guest who's here to talk about their experience with Worldwide Dream Builders and Amway. And you guys, it never ceases to amaze me with how horrendous these leaders have treated us, whether somebody was in Canada, on the east coast, the west coast of the United States. Like, it doesn't matter. All of us have very, very similar experiences. So let's get into the disclaimers here. I am not here to defame anybody. Okay, I'm not here to defame Amway, Worldwide, all of the leadership that we're going to be talking about today. Their names have been changed. In fact, my guest is actually coming on totally anonymous. Her name has been changed as well. And we're speaking on personal experiences and personal opinions. Okay. Again, make it very clear we are not here to defame anybody. We're here sharing our story. Okay. Do not sue me. Yes. Yes. All right, you guys, I'm really excited to introduce my guest, Sophia. Sophia comes to us actually from Mexico. Okay. She's from Canada, but she's coming to us from Mexico. Thanks so much for being here, Sophia.
Thanks for having me.
So I want you to tell me a little bit about the significance of why you felt it was so important to talk to me while you're in Mexico.
Yeah, so my husband and I have been together almost 8 years. It'll be 8 years this September. And this is actually our first ever vacation that we've ever taken together, short of like driving through the mountains. But we live in Alberta and the mountains are 3 hours from us. Like, that's not a vacation. We've been married almost 5 years, and our honeymoon consisted of a one night stay in the mountains where we drove there the Sunday after we got married. We stayed one night and then drove right back the following morning because we had to be back. Um, because like I was in school full time, my husband was working full time, and we had a board plan like 2 days later.
Oh man.
Uh,
Yeah, that's
so
wild. So
yeah,
this is your first ever vacation
yeah.
in 8 years as an adult, as a couple.
Mhm.
And through the time that you were in Worldwide, how many times were you promised that you were going to have the freedom to take these vacations?
Way too often. Way too often. We'll travel the beaches of the world together, and we'll go do all the fun things and moving up and this and that and the other, and we'll travel all the time like you'll never see home. And that is not not remotely close to what happened. So I thought, what an appropriate like up yours to just the world we were stuck in for way too long to be recording this on a just on a beautiful vacation in a beach in Mexico.
Wow. I
Yeah.
love that. I really do. And I'm happy that you guys finally get to do this. But you're right. I
Hmm.
mean, we were told like we're going to travel the beaches of the world together. You're going to put off, what do they call it? Delayed gratification. You're going to, not go on vacations. You're gonna work your ass off, and then eventually, like, you're gonna go on vacations, and it's gonna cost nothing to you. You're gonna do everything first class, blah blah blah, right? But then you take a look at how much time you actually spent in the business, and you're like, oh shit! Like during that 3 years that I was in, I think about, man, like if I hadn't spent money on Ditto, not only could I have had a down payment for a house, but I also could have gone on vacation taking my kids, to these places that I was told I can't go. And now here you guys are in Mexico. So if you don't mind me asking, if you consider the amount of time that you spent in Worldwide and the amount of times that they told you to save, right? How long did it really take you guys to put this trip together?
Well, the it was a very like last minute decision. The line of work that my husband works in, he got a Christmas bonus, and the last handful of years we put his Christmas bonus towards our car was having a lot of issues, so we put most of like his Christmas bonuses towards the stupid freaking car, like brand new winter tires, like the engine needed work 3 times. It was just insane. Um, so his last two Christmas bonuses have gone to that or have gone to like paying off a credit card or whatever. So it was actually this Christmas bonus that we finally said, you know what? We're gonna go. We're putting this towards a vacation for us. So yeah, it didn't take long, but it was definitely like a very long awaited trip.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also, I love that you said it was a last minute decision because
Yeah.
could you imagine if you had like board plans every which direction? This kind of like spontaneity couldn't even happen, even though
No.
it's months ahead. Like you'd have to be like, oh
Yeah.
no, is there a spring leadership around this time? Because like this is that time of
Yeah.
year, right?
It's getting close to it. Yeah. Yeah, and then it was like we also left our kids at home. So then it's like, and we left them with their grandparents. And so it's like we didn't like had we still been in, it's like, oh, we're leaving now. And then like a month later, like almost exactly a month later, it's gonna be spring leadership up here. And and it's like, oh, that would be asking for like a lot of time, them watching the kids like right back to back. Like, can we even do that? Oh, we probably can't even go on this vacation because we have to go like get childcare for that weekend. Yeah. So it's wild.
Wow. Well,
Hmm.
I'm again, congratulations on your guys'
Thanks.
willingness to actually put yourselves first for the first time
Yeah.
in 8 years. But not only that, just getting out and being actually free. So,
Hmm.
speaking on the note of freedom and worldwide, your guys' story is pretty wild. So, how how did you get wrapped up into Worldwide Dream Builders and Amway?
Oh gosh. Okay. So my husband and I met when we were 16 and 17 through a youth organization up here. And I had just gotten out of a really abusive relationship. It, yeah, it was not great. It was my ex was like sexually abusive and verbally and emotionally and physically and all the things. Like he was a terrible human being, scum of the earth. I hope he doesn't make anything of his life. But I broke up with him. I got together with my now husband, and we had been dating for like a year and a half at this point when our original sponsor first approached us. And we were at this youth organization, and the sponsor, we were like really good friends. Well, not really good friends, but I knew him more than my husband did because he had also started out in the same youth organization that I did, well, that we both did. But I started out when I was 12. He's 1 year older than me, so he started out when he was 13. He left to go to a different organization and then came back as an adult to volunteer. And so at this point, I'm 18, almost 19. My husband is 17, almost 18. And um, he comes back, he starts volunteering with the organization, and he hears and knows because there was a lot of drama because my ex was also in the same organization that my husband and I were in. And so there's a lot of drama there. And he hears about it because he's an adult volunteer, and they were like briefing all the adults about all of this nonsense that was going on because my ex was trying to stir the pot. And um, so he approached me and he said, "Hey, I know that you were in this really abusive relationship. I have access to this really awesome podcast about forgiveness and like the effects of unforgiveness, and I think you would really benefit from it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And so I listened to this podcast, and it was by the pastor guy. We all know the pastor guy, and it was like the only great thing that I took out of it was like having unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Like that's decent material, okay? For like other things. But I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship, and the last thing I wanted to do was forgive my ex. I was like, my ex can rot in hell for all I care. So I listened to this podcast, which he doesn't even let me like look at his phone while I was listening to it. He locked it and he was like, if it stops, let me know. I'll come unlock it. and restart it for you and whatever. I now know that's because he didn't want me seeing like the platform of the app or getting any ideas or whatever. So I listened to it. I'm like, yeah, this was great. Thanks so much for like sharing this with me, whatever. We go on about our day. Um, the following week, he approaches my husband and I. We'll refer to him as Adam, my husband. Um, and so he approaches Adam and I, and he's like, "Hey, you know that like that podcast you listened to last week?" And we were like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I have some people that are like connected that I'm really well connected with. They're putting on like a success talk, and like they're gonna talk about success principles and mindset, and like moving yourself forward in life." And I was like, "Geez, that sounds nice." And I grew up with in a really like unstable home. My parents are basically divorced, but they live in the same home. Like it was tumultuous and not great. And so um I was like, "Oh, okay, a success talk? Like this sounds kind of interesting." And so we were like what are the details? So he tells us all the standard details that everybody's heard here before, like dress business, arrive on time, this is the address, text me when you get here, blah blah blah. And so my husband and I, we went to, it was my brother's birthday actually. And so we were at this birthday party for my brother. And then probably around 7-ish, we look at the time and we're like, okay, like we should probably get going. And everybody's like, why are you guys dressed like that? And we were like, oh, we have a thing to go to, no problem. And everybody's like, that's really weird, but okay. So we left, we went to the success talk, and the speakers who would eventually become like our direct mentors and coaches, quote unquote, were the ones that were speaking. And yes, we saw them speak, and we really like we actually really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie, like it was great. It was positive. It was we had been around a lot of like negative people in our first year and a half of being together. So it was nice to have a positive face. And thus was the beginning of chaos for the next 5 years.
Wow.
Yep.
I just want to say that the way that your sponsor approached you is just so fucked up. And I know, it's like, sponsor, if you're listening to this, we know that you've changed. We know you're better, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't get over that. I'm sorry. It's just like, oh, hey, I know you were traumatized recently. I have this Paul Sika audio you should listen to. It's funny in retrospect because we know it's Paul
It
Sika,
is.
right? But
It's hilarious.
I'm so sorry. Like I'm laughing because of how actually like, oh my
Mental.
God. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's crazy. And not only that, right? This guy is approaching you and it's somebody I'm sure you trust. Like you knew this
Mm-hmm.
person, like you would not be considering the fact that this person was going to get you into an alleged cult. And you trust the
Mm-hmm.
people that you know. And so you're at your brother's birthday party and you're dressed out of the usual. Does
Mm-hmm.
anybody question like is there any red flags going off to anybody that you're with that this could be an MLM?
Nope. Nobody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys go and you guys see the speakers, and you guys, I get it because when you say you enjoyed it, I did too. I saw the club owner speak. That was my very first like board plan, and they were
Mm-hmm.
rubies at the time, and it was amazing. I was living on cloud nine. I was like, whoa, these are my people. Like, where have y'all been my
Mm-hmm.
whole life? And thus begins the process, if you will. But
Yep.
the process wasn't even a thing, really, right? When you guys had first started.
It was. We got roped in April of 2018.
Oh,
That's when
right.
it
Okay.
officially started. So it was like it was newer, but it was not like brand spanking new, hot off the press.
Got it. Got it. So, yeah, because
Yeah,
I think the US had just started implementing it around
probably.
that time, which is crazy. So, and how old are you guys when you guys officially launch into business?
So our process took a little bit longer only because Adam did not turn 18 until like for about 6 weeks. from when this originally happened, like the first success talk, which they don't call them that anymore. But um, so our process was kind of delayed and took a really long time because of that, because his parents, like, probably, we just said his parents aren't going to sign for this. There's no way. Um, Once we started finding out more and more, we were like, there's no way they would sign on the dotted line for that. So we just waited, and we didn't launch until July of 2018. So 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
The fact that they had to wait until he was 18, like, I have only heard this similar situation one other time, and that was with,
Hmm.
if you guys haven't heard Antonia's story, you guys
Yeah.
have to go check it out. Her and her triplet were both just, like, brought into this business when they were in high school. And so now we're
Hmm.
talking about Adam, who has to, we have to wait until he turns 18. It's like, we can't go to Vegas until you turn 21, my guy. Like, it's the same concept. It's, we're grooming you into this process, and we have
Hmm.
to wait until you are of age, which is so
Yeah.
crazy to me. And kind of going off what you had said, you're like, oh, his parents are not going to sign on the dotted line as you guys moved forward and learned more about it.
Hmm.
What did you guys initially think it was? And did it take a long time for you guys to find out that it was Amway and Worldwide?
Yeah. So, um, we originally thought that it was like a marriage or like relationship mentoring opportunity, because that's kind of like, it was a success talk, and we saw this couple who, the couple that was speaking, we will refer to them as Bob and Kelly. And Bob and Kelly are, I don't know exactly where they're at right now, but they were, while we were in Emerald, downline from Don and Mary. And Bob and Kelly, they were sitting at this board plan, success talk, whatever, given their spiel, whatever. And the thing that captivated me and had me in was the way that Bob looked at Kelly while she was talking, and the way that Kelly looked at Bob while he was talking. Because I didn't grow up with a great example of marriage. And I was like, I want my future spouse to look at me the way Bob is looking at Kelly, because he looked at her with like such respect and such like endearment, and like, God, I am infatuated with this woman. Like, I just, you had to be there. Maybe you didn't, maybe you shouldn't, but like, the look was captivating. So
Yeah.
that's what got me. That was like, that was the hook that got me. And so that, like, on that, like, piece, I was like, this must be a mentoring, like a marriage mentoring opportunity. And I was captivated by that, because I was like, I didn't grow up with a good example of marriage. My husband and I, we, at the time, we were like very serious, and we were like, we're dating to eventually get married. And so we were like, we want the best example possible of marriage, blah, blah, blah. And um, so that's what we thought it was. We thought it was like a marriage mentoring thing. And then when did we find it was Amway and Worldwide? Oh my God. It was at least, I'd say at least a month. Yeah. So it was probably two or three board plans before we heard the word um Amway. And then it wasn't discussed, because like the way that they did it, I don't know how they do it down there, but it was like board plan, and then you'd sit down with whoever was taking you through the process for coffee for like the follow-up, board plan, follow-up, board plan, follow-up, board plan, follow-up, and then offer, and then launch and whatever. And so it wasn't until probably the third follow-up that we found out that it was Amway. And we were like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the grooming process in this is so strong. I mean, they do it on purpose because they get you, they and the way that you're talking about the look, I totally understand where you're coming from with the look. You're enamored by it because you see just how loving a couple can be, especially if you come from a broken home. I also come from a broken
Mm-hmm.
home. So it was very nice to see, like, oh shit, couples can actually be together, stay together, and like respect each other. Like, what is this foreign
Yeah.
concept to people like us, right? And then they pitch it as like a relational aspect, right? It's
Yeah.
relationships. We're people building people. Where iron
Mhm.
sharpens iron is something that they constantly say. Like they're just building people up. This is a relationship business. It's a
Yeah.
business or it's like a relationship mentorship with a business opportunity attached. All of this different verbiage is just ways for them to get us groomed into
Mhm.
when they're finally ready to tell us that it's Amway. And they use terms, I know Dawn and Mary are very notorious for this, but like if you were to ask, they would say, well, that's premature information. We are not at that step in the process yet. We will get to that. And that's
Mhm.
their way of deflecting. So that way you don't find out that it's Amway too soon.
Yeah.
Because if you find out it's too soon, then you're going to get skeptical and you're not going to want to join.
Yeah.
Had you guys heard of Amway at that point?
No, never.
Of course. I mean, and why would you? You're
We're
teenagers, and by
babies.
all
We're
accounts,
babies.
right? And it's an American. It's a
Thing.
prominently American business. I mean, American
Yeah.
way, and I think the fact that the Canadian leaders are so like bought into it is so wild to me. I never would have
Oh.
thought that these Canadian leaders have such like almost like Southern American values. It's
Oh yeah.
wild to me.
It is
So
wild sauce.
I love
Yeah.
Um, so real quick, I just kind of want to go
Mhm.
into so because if you guys are listening to this and if you know, you know, Bob
Mhm.
and Kelly are related to Nolan and Rianne, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay,
Bob
so
is Rianne's older brother. So if
got
you
it.
know, you know.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
wow. So you finally learned that it's Amway. What did your parents think? Like, did you guys tell them that it was Amway? Like, what was their thoughts during this process?
My parents didn't really care. The only thing that they said was my mom was a nurse. She was for a really long time, and she had said to her boss that I don't know how they got talking about it, but somehow they got talking about like what I were doing. And she was like, "Oh yeah, my son does that. Like he sells hand cream and like something made some promise about him making $60,000 a year." My mom was like, "Yeah, that sounds like the same thing." And the her boss was like, "And I really like the hand lotion. It's really nice." So, and that was that. My mom was like, "Apparently the hand lotion's nice." And that was all they said about it. My dad at this point was very around, but not like super present, only because of my mom. And I'll leave it at that. It was very weird. And so I didn't really see my dad a whole lot during this time. So I, yeah, didn't really hear a whole lot. But my husband's parents, well, they were extremely opinionated. They thought we were stupid, and admittedly, we were dumb. We should have listened. In hindsight, we should have listened, but it's all good. We've learned. Because they had actually been in a different MLM when they were in their early 20s. It wasn't Amway, and I won't name drop the company, but it was a very similar company to Amway in the sense that it was like wellness and beauty products and blah blah blah.
Okay, so they were coming to you and not even in the sense that they were skeptical. They came at it from like, no, we know that this is wow. That's
They were like,
crazy.
"Don't." They were like, "Don't do it. You'll lose so much money." And we were like, "What do you people know?" And we were like, "We'll be fine." Blah blah blah. And yeah, yeah.
Wow.
They stopped caring after a while when they just realized that there was no changing our mind. And they never supported us. They never bought products. Um they never asked questions, but you could tell like you could cut the tension through with a hot butter knife. It was awkward.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
parents are the same way.
Hmm.
My mom, I don't have a relationship with my mother, so it's hard to
Hmm.
say whether she didn't really care. My
Yeah.
dad and my stepmom, on the other hand, those are my actual parents. Like that's my mom and dad. Oh
Yeah.
my God, were they very similar, very opinionated, and it's not even they didn't come from it because my dad had never been, but he had been approached a
Mm.
handful of times actually by people
Mhm.
in Amway specifically, and my stepmom, she had also just kind of seen it as well, and they were both like, "This is like, what are you doing?" Basically, and of course, kind of like you mentioned, at that point, you're not changing your mind. So you have now these family members who are more on the negative side, is what they would call it,
Yeah.
right? Your family's negative, but you guys accept an offer into business. So, what does your guys' honeymoon phase look like? You guys were in for 5 years, right?
Yeah, yeah, 5 years. It was a long time. I'm not gonna lie. Because got started in July of 2018. And then we went to family reunion, and family reunion was awesome. Wept our freaking eyes out. Um, we got engaged in September. Yeah, September of 2018. And then what happened after that? Jeez. September 2018. And then yeah, the honeymoon phase probably lasted until we got married, which was a year later in September of 2019. And then when our upline, we had invited our upline platinums and our original like coaches and mentors to our wedding, and there was a regional that day, and our original mentors and coaches, they came to the ceremony, but they didn't come to the reception, and our upline platinums didn't even come at all, and didn't send a card, nothing, whatever. They sent a Kate, an urgent Kate, which I was like, oh my gosh, my platinum's sending me an urgent Kate. And at this point, we were actually, yeah, it was our wedding. We were actually being like mentored and coached by Bob and Kelly. Like it had switched over the summer, like in August. And we had invited them, but they were like, yeah, we cannot make it. Like it's a regional that day. We will not be there. Um, so yeah, none of our upline came, and we were like, why would they not come? Like this is a wedding. Like whatever. And you hear how people like don't go to weddings and don't go to funerals and don't go to baby showers and birthday parties and whatever because they're building the business. But it was like the first moment of like, oh, somebody skipped out on me because they're doing something else. But it wasn't enough to make us do like any more than like a double take. Um, and then we were like in our honeymoon phase of being married. So we were like, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. Blah, 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 blah. And yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Wow.
over
I
a year.
That's a good point that you make, though, that your upline didn't come. And it's because
Hmm.
of the business. They had to prioritize the business because, God forbid, they miss one function, right?
Yeah.
Because they would never want their downline to duplicate that. It's just insane.
Hmm.
But it reminds me of like when she's my best friend now, but when she was married to my now ex sponsor,
Yeah.
as we all know, what do we say to Robert? Fuck you, Robert. Okay. Every episode, I try my best to tell him how much I fucking hate him. So my upline Eagles, Jenny and Craig, who were supposedly our best friends, they didn't go to Jess and Robert's wedding. Neither did our upline platinums, John and Barbara. Like, and I myself and one of our upline who was very like in and out of the business came. That was it as far as the business goes. These people pushed, and this is their situation in particular, so I'm just saying this for them. They pushed them into the marriage, and yet they couldn't even fucking show up for the wedding, which is insane to me. But if you guys have not been a part of an organization like this is just to show how the leadership actually is when it comes to these quote friendships that they're developing with us. Like in all reality, they're not going to ever put us first. If it's the
Yeah.
business first, they won't even put their own kids first. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. So you guys are now kind of in your honeymoon phase, and we're kind of exiting this honeymoon phase, and
Hmm.
you're kind of in the in between. Like what was it that really made you see and start to question things, and how long would you say through the business were you at when you started to kind of notice those red flags?
The red flags came kind of not kind of early. It wasn't so much red flags as it was like I just had no energy to build the business. So we got married in September of 2019. I got pregnant in December of 2019, 6 weeks after we got married. And our first child was a surprise, is what I mean. It's not a surprise. You know what you're doing, but like it was not anticipated that I would get pregnant that quickly. So And I was absolutely terrified. Like I had always wanted to be a mom, but I was like, oh my God, I am 20 years old. Am I fit to be a mom? And so yeah, our first child was born in July of 2020, and I had a really complicated pregnancy and birth trauma and postpartum depression really severely. And I actually was so depressed because of the birth trauma from her birth that I attempted to take my own life in January of 2021. Yeah, because it was so bad. And so after that point, so like after January of 2021, I was pretty checked out. Like checked out of most things. Checked out of life, checked out of parenting, checked out of not being married. I never like went out of my marriage, but like I was checked out and putting effort into being married and becoming better. I was checked out of building a business. I was like gone. Um and so post January of 2021, it was a lot of like, it was pulling teeth to show up to virtual anything because everything was virtual now. The pandemic had started, the world was insane, and everything was virtual. And I was like, I don't want to do this. But we still kept showing up because the association and whatever. And to be like, to give credit where credit's due, I'll say like Kelly is a great mom and a great like person from that perspective. Like on a personal standpoint, I really respected like her parenting and who she was in that sense. And so being as young as I was terrified. And I think ultimately that's what kept me so long was I was terrified of walking this adult life, especially the home and the life I had. I was terrified to let go of any sort of like stable relationship that I had. So I think I refused to see the red flags in 2021 um, just because of that. And then our second child was born in February of 2022. And um, that's when some things started opening up. Like in Alberta, they had a spring leadership viewing in, I think it was in April of 2022, April or May. And we didn't go to that because I had a brand new baby and I was struggling with breastfeeding and like all of these different things were going on. Um, we had just found out that my older brother, or my oldest brother, I guess I should say, had cancer in April of 2022. So it was like 2022 was not the year for us. And it was the year,
Wow.
I think that was the year. It was kind of just a lot of things started happening. And that's when the things that we had always heard from Bob and Kelly and from Don and Mary and whatever that did not match like their actions, that's when the red flags started. Was like early mid 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
First, I just want to say thank you so much for being so vulnerable and being so
Yeah.
honest and forthcoming with really just how detrimental all of those things can be all at once. I mean, not
Yeah.
only are you talking about traumatic birth from a pregnancy that you hadn't even anticipated happening, and then you have postpartum depression, which, if you guys have not heard previous episodes, you guys have to go listen, especially Hope. Hope talks quite a bit about how her upline handled it. But in pattern with how worldwide functions, they do not believe in postpartum depression, let alone depression as a whole. So you have postpartum depression, and then you have the heavy weight of this business and the pandemic and your upline. Like, I truly just have so much empathy for what you went through during that time. Like, I'm like emotional for you because all of that just bears so much weight. And to have these
Mm-hmm.
people who claim you're going to travel the beaches of the world, we're your best friends, we're your mentors in life, but they don't take you seriously,
Yeah.
crushes my soul for you. But not
Yeah.
only that, we're kind of fast forwarding a little bit and you're talking about the
Mm-hmm.
next year in 2022, how now you find out that your brother has cancer. You're finding out these horrendous things. And
Mhm.
then, not only that, your upline's actions are not matching their words. And then it just kind of starts crumbling down. So,
Mhm.
in 2022, kind of after those kind of red flags started, what was it that, really was the catalyst for you to say, you know what, I'm done?
It took until like, this is really sad, but it took until 2023, um, for us to finally be like, "F this. This is smoke up our ass. Like, we're getting out." But it really like, the catalyst to us leaving started in December of 2022 because that's when my brother died. And once my brother died, it was just a very, I think you don't see the world a certain way until you either lose somebody really, really close to you or you watch them die. And that was my experience. Like, I was in the room holding my brother's hand when he died. And I was the person that was with him as they prepared his body, put his body in a body bag, brought him down to the morgue because he was in a hospital when this all happened. Um and my lens, and I'm still a young mom. I have a 2.5 year old and a not even 1 year old. And I just saw the world so differently. And I was like, I have lost so much that I don't have time for all these dumb, stupid things. And at the same time, I still so valued my relationship with Kelly and the like stability of her that I was like, I cannot make it through this without one stable adult in my life because I also was an alcoholic before I like we got into the business. And even like up until like 2019. Yeah, 2019, I was still drinking really, really heavily. Um, and so once I got sober, it was like a lot of my sobriety rested on like I need stable adults in my life. And um yeah, it wasn't until um probably the summer of yeah, it was the summer of last year, 2023, that we finally were like, we've got to get out of this because it's just when you watch someone die and you are also raising a little family, you have both extremes. And you're like, life is too short. It's corny and it's cheesier and whatever, but life is really too short. Like my brother was only 41 when he died, and you life is too damn short to be spending doing dumb things, being in places you don't enjoy, spending time with people that don't really give a shit about you. Like at the end of the day, like when we left, not zero. I think two shits were given when we left, and after those, nothing. So yeah, it was like the summer of 2023 that we decided like enough's enough. We got to get out of here.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, my condolences. I'm so
thank
sorry. I
you.
can't I think the way that you put it, I mean, it's really only a way that somebody like you could say it. I mean, I cannot speak to that situation, but hearing the way that you describe it is like that you see life differently, and I think that that's so eye-opening
Hmm.
because for so long you kind of have these rose-colored glasses and you're
You
considering
do.
something like worldwide, and then the way that they handle these types of situations too, because they always try to tell you, right? I don't know if you heard this in your line of sponsorship, but we always heard like if they would say if, right? Because they hadn't dealt with these experiences. If something happened, we are building this business to prepare for that.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting kind of to see that and for you to kind of seen it the other way. Like I got to this happens, I got to stop building this business because it's
Hmm.
is doing nothing. And
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you guys were able, I mean, I'm sad for the reason why you
Hmm.
guys had to see that, but for you guys to really see what was actually kind of going on in front of you, I can imagine. I mean, not to mention the fact that you're going through so much. It had to have
Hmm.
been incredibly emotional. Was it
Oh
hard
my
for you
God.
guys to make the decision to leave?
Oh my God. I wept bitterly for so long about it. And yeah, when we finally made the decision to leave, it was like August. We finally didn't like cancel all our things until September, but like the decision was like in August to leave. And I remember the day that I told Kelly that we were done. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I hadn't been able to sleep, and I just had this like ruminating. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I used to have all the time these like ruminating like lines of thought of like, oh my God, like I should be doing this to grow my business. And I should have talked to this person. I should have said this and I should have been doing this and
Yes.
that. And it's just, oh my God, it was all consuming all the time. And so then when we made the decision to leave, it was that line of thought, but it was like, how am I going to tell her we're done? Like, we're done. And um, a situation had happened a couple weeks earlier that had really shown like true colors of our coaches and mentors, mostly from Kelly's side because Adam had been like checked out for over a year. Like he hadn't sent Kate's in a year. He hadn't cleared Kate ever in a year. He just shut off the notifications and just didn't give a shit. Like he was in it still because I was still wanting to be there for the solid like adult in my life. And he was there to support me and whatever, but he was like, I am not doing anything to grow this business, just so you know. And I was like, that's fine. Just stick around. Don't make me do this alone. Um, and so, yeah, so this thing had happened a couple weeks earlier and it pissed me off so badly. Like, ah. And so I had been ruminating over it for a couple of weeks. And this night I just could not sleep. It was running through my head. And so eventually I jumped in my car and drove around. We have like a ring road highway in the city that I live in. Um, and it's 75 kilometers all the way around. It takes you about 45 minutes to drive it. And so I hopped in my car, I hopped on Kate, and I sent her this like a bunch of part message. I don't remember how many parts. It was a bunch. It should have been a phone call, but I wasn't gonna call at 3 o'clock in the morning. And also because I just didn't want to talk to her back and forth over the phone. And so I sent her this message and she didn't answer for several days. Um, and yeah, I sent her this multiple part Kate and was like, basically, I came up with this lie because I didn't want to tell her I was really angry at her, but I was like very pissed off. So I just said, I don't have the belief that I can do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't believe that I can build this. I honestly don't think my dream is this big, huge, elaborate life. I just we're basically like, I don't know what alternative there is here, was the gist of it. And she came back with, well, we could look at restructuring partnership if that looks, for the season of life that you're in, take in things virtually for a couple of months till you're ready. And then when you're ready, come on back and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? I can't. It's too much. I cannot do it. Namaste, like have a good life. And that was the end of it. And I had never felt more free in my life than when I deleted all the fucking apps off my phone. Like Kate was gone, the Amway app was gone, the workplace, no, not workplace, the really trash like early 2000s app that they came up with when they left workplace, got rid of that, like everything. It was so freeing. It was fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Her response is to that. You're sending this just immense, like emotional, heartfelt, like, I don't believe in myself anymore. I can't do this. And
Mm-hmm.
her response was, well, we could restructure. Like, what the fuck are you going to restructure? Well, what is there to restructure? I thought this partnership was one fucking way. What is there to change? If you're not like, it's just, it's so
Yeah.
insensitive, but
Yep.
it
Yep.
unfortunately, it does totally check out.
Yep.
Um, And it is what it is, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But I'm really happy that you guys have you had found your way out. I know that it's hard,
Yeah.
like, because a lot of the times I often hear that the women stay for the men, right? Like my husband wants to stay and my boyfriend wanted to stay and I stayed for him. But when it's us women, and not to say that this doesn't happen with men too, but just from my own perspective and what I've heard from others is that the association is so hard to leave. Like
Yeah.
those people, you gain such an emotional connection with them, and you have and I can't speak for you in this situation, but a lot of people that I hear from are like, I gave up my friends, my family. Like I didn't have these relationships outside of worldwide. And now I don't even have them. Like it's almost like a very toxic DV relationship is what I'm gonna compare
Yeah.
it to. Because if you leave your abuser, it's like, well, what am I leaving to? Like they always say, well,
Yeah.
quit to what? Well, it's like life is going to be so foreign. It just becomes so comfortable.
Yeah.
You're so used to these people. They might treat you like shit, but you're so used to everything that's going on. And to leave them is to leave life as you know it.
Yeah.
And wow,
Yeah.
I am just, I'm just so like shocked at how these people are and how they treated your departure. Not
Yeah.
only that, just how they treated you guys in general.
Hmm.
Um, have you guys heard from them since ever, like at all, any time
No,
after that?
uh, almost no. So what happened prior to us leaving was my youngest child was born with a birth defect, and nothing, for anonymity's sake, I will not go into the details. And nothing,
Sure, sure.
it's nothing serious, but it's a common thing that kids can be born with. And so our youngest was born with this, and it took a year of going to special like tests and specialists and whatnot, for her to finally, and in the province that I was living in, she, because of what her birth defect entailed, um, there's a surgery and a procedure and a device that can help people born with this birth defect. And in our province, the funding for it, because healthcare is very different here, helps explained it a bunch of times, but so the healthcare here is kind of different, and so the equipment, the surgery, the whatever for her birth defect is covered under Alberta healthcare, and the funding for that didn't happen in the province until January of 2023. So we spent 9 months working to get our child approved to have this surgery and to have this device put in so that she like yeah so that she wouldn't struggle with this birth defect. And um so because of that, so she got approved in May. We got a phone call in August saying, hey, um her date for surgery is at the end of September. And so FED, because there was no more FED in Canada, the only two FEDs were in Vegas and in, was it Tacoma? It was near Seattle. Yeah, I think it was Tacoma. And it was 2 or 3 weeks following her surgery. And with this certain defect, there's two parts, there's surgery and then there's the device. And so the device can't be used until about 3 weeks after the surgery to allow the spot time to heal. Because if you put it on, you could get an infection. It could be really bad. Anyways, so Kelly is like on board for this whole rigmarole, whatever, of what's going on. We're updating her all the time, whatever. So we meet with her surgeon, like my child's surgeon, um, in June, and she states, don't, and her office reiterated it when they called us with the date. They were like, do not, um, you know, go into big crowds, don't go shopping, kind of like the same COVID thing of like social distancing, whatever. Because if your child comes in and they're sick, the day of surgery, we're going to cancel and postpone it till the next month, which she would have had to wait another month. And I was not about to take the chance to let her get sick. Well, Dawn and Mary had a second look in Red Deer in Alberta. Um, 2 weeks before her surgery. And I was like, hey, Kelly, we're not going to go because it's 2 weeks before my child's surgery. If my kid shows up sick, they're going to cancel and reschedule and whatever. And I don't want to wait another month for this. I have fought for this for a year. Like, my kid needs this. They deserve it. They need to have it. But because it was an elective surgery, um, I think because it was an elective surgery and it wasn't super complicated or life altering or whatever, Kelly was like, well, I think you're being kind of unreasonable. Yeah. Danny's face there was just really good. Yeah.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
yeah. She was like, I think you're being unreasonable. It sounds like you've already made your decision about what you're going to do. Because I basically said, if you think there's another option of how I can take in this second look, I would like to hear it. Because Dawn and Mary, they would offer virtual link to their functions if it were in person. If you were outside of 2 to 3 hours driving range to the function, we were less than 2 hours from the function. So, unless there were extenuating circumstances, quote unquote, like apparently your kid having surgery 2 weeks following and you don't want to get them sick doesn't count. Okay, whatever. Yeah. So Kelly was like, "It sounds like you've made your decision. I don't really know what to tell you. I can't tell you to go or not go. Um, that the ownership on your decisions are all on you. But yeah, just I think you could think of better solutions than the one that you've already decided on." And that I lost my damn mind. I was like, and then so I came back to that with, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm being a little unreasonable and I could wear a mask and I could drive down, stand in the back, not go to huddles and drive back. Like at the end of the day, I just didn't that was like that was the ultimate like we're getting the hell out of here. Um was because of that. And so um I was just fuming about the whole thing. And eventually I was like, screw this. There's no point. Like you say you put your family first and your kids first and everything first, but you're not actually because like it's unless it's your own kids, like whoever's kids and not my kids, I can't put my kids first. And the fact that she was like, yeah, I think you're being a little like over the top. I think you're being unreasonable. You've already made your decision. I was like, get the frick out of here.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're right. My facial expression, I couldn't hold
Yeah.
it in. I was like, what the fuck? So what what I want to know is who gets to decide whether a quote elective surgery is important or not. Like, I mean, there's plenty of elective surgeries that are still life saving or that are
Yeah.
life altering that are can make people's lives so much easier, especially if
Mm-hmm.
it's something. It doesn't matter. Your child could not have a birth defect and could have just needed a doctor's appointment, and they still should have fucking
Oh
not
yeah.
questioned a single thing. But this is a very serious matter, something that you had been, like you said, you fought for your child, and they said you were being unreasonable. I just, these
Mm-hmm.
people are so, I fucking hate them. I really do. Dawn and Mary, Nolan and Rianne, Bob and Kelly, you gotta all go fuck yourselves. Like that's insane. You're talking about a little child whose parents literally fought for them to have this necessary procedure, and they, oh my god. And this was before, right, that lengthy message you had sent via Kate.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
fuck. I'm so angry for you, but I cannot apologize to you enough just how
Yeah.
like how sorry I am that this organization put you through such bullshit. And
Like my kid's surgery went super great. Like everything went well. Like they got the device, everything that was needed happened, and it was fine. And I had like a deep breath of whatever, of relief. That's what it is. But yeah, so I didn't really. Okay, so to get back to the original question, of have I heard from them? Uh, not since her surgery, like my child's surgery. And I had texted Kelly and I was like, surgery went great. Kid's doing really well, recovering well. We should go home tomorrow. And she proceeded to have like a little conversation with me about like, oh, are you staying at the hospital? Blah blah blah. And after that, crickets. Not a thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. I mean, I'm dumbfounded.
yeah,
These are people that you gave so much of your life to,
yeah,
and they gave you nothing when you needed
yeah,
it the most.
yeah.
And that is, ladies and gentlemen, why we hate Worldwide Dream Builders. Maybe hate might be a strong word for some of you guys. I'll use it gladly. Okay. If you guys don't want to use it, I'll use it. Fuck these people. Okay. Like, it's insane to me how heartless they are. They pull you in with the promise of not just wealth, but relationships. They're the like the people in your life that, like you said, are going to keep you stable. And this is how it ends.
Yeah,
So, wow. Okay. So, we're out of worldwide now. Sounds like everything
yeah,
went great with your child. So happy to
yeah.
hear that. What is life like now?
Life is incredible. We ended up getting a dog because that was something I've heard this on your show before, but like so many people were like, I couldn't get a dog. I couldn't get it. Like I couldn't have a pet. Some people were like I know they never like explicitly said like Don and Mary were like, don't have kids until you reach a certain pin level, but it was sure evident that that was kind of the mindset of the group. Um, and so many people missed out on doing and getting and having certain things. And ours was having a dog. Like Adam desperately wanted a dog. And um, so we left in September. By the end of November, we had a dog. She is massive, like huge. Because the dog is a Lab Pyrenees cross. So it's a big dog.
So cute.
And she's delightful. And we love her. And every time I see her, I'm like, I was missing out on this for so long. So we have a dog. We moved into a bigger home. We haven't bought a home, but we're now on the path towards like we're gonna buy a home. Um, yeah, because we can actually save for a down payment because newsflash people listening who may be in certain organizations where they say you can't own a home until you're a diamond and you should rent and buying a house is stupid if you can't pay for it in cash. Newsflash, it's okay to have a mortgage. It's all right. You can buy a home if you want to buy a home. Um, yeah, so we're working towards buying a home. We're having another child in the fall. Yeah, we're having another child, which I was like, that was a thing, like, 'cause the age gap between our second child and what will be the third child is kind of bigger than my other, like the other two. The other two are a year and a half apart. The second one to the third one's gonna be about 2.5 years. And the big reason why we waited so long was one, I have what really complicated pregnancies, but two was because we didn't know if we'd be able, like if we were still in partnership, to be able to secure childcare for 3 children um, for at least 4 weekends a year, and for the ridiculous amount of board plans. And that was a thing that kept us from having another baby because we were like, we can't score childcare for 3 kids under 5. Like, there's no way. So yeah, we're having another baby. We're in Mexico. um, Life is just so much better, so much freer. Like there's we were talking about this as we were walking to dinner tonight, and it's a full moon on the day of this recording. And we were actually, as we were walking over to like this patio that overlooks the beach and overlooks the ocean, we could see the moon was rising over the ocean. And we were talking about like how much of life do you miss out on when you're in partnership because you're constantly have the mental like I should be doing this, I should be talking to these people, how can I grow my business, quote unquote grow your business, and you're just so wrapped in it all you miss so much. And we just stood there for 5 minutes and watched the moon rise over the ocean and literally wept like a freaking baby. And it's like you can, since being out, you can just appreciate the little things for what they are without the mental track of who am I going to get in next? Who am I running through the process? Who am I contacting? Who am I this? Who am I that? When's the next board plan? When's the next major function? Da.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Oh
Thanks.
my gosh. Just so many things are coming into your life
Mm-hmm.
that you guys get to make the decision. Your
Yeah.
life is in your guys' control. And I'm so grateful for your willingness to come here and again just be so
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable and sharing your story. And
Yeah.
I hope that people who are listening really understand just how how detrimental being a part of an organization like this can be. I mean,
Yeah.
it really can take years of your life and you put things on hold. But thankfully, you guys are here now, and I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Do you have any last words for our listeners?
If you walk into a room at a hotel or in someone's basement or in a condo building or a convention center with a lot of folding chairs and a lot of people dressed in business attire, run far, run fast, block their number, don't talk to them again because you will quite literally waste months, years, if not decades of your life to like an organization that makes money off of your back. And it's so frustrating. Allegedly
Oh no,
makes
it's not
money
a
off
legend
of
anymore.
you.
Oh
No.
no, we know
Oh,
it's a fact.
oh,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
it's in the
Oh,
disclaimer on the
oh
app.
yeah. Oh no, I was actually gonna mention that. I was like, how many times have you just like, listen, the results depicted may result from sources other than Amway, such as the sale of training aids and other business support material. And I'm like, and you never put two and two together until
Yeah, they never told us.
yeah, they never no.
Liars.
We're not paid to be here. And what they were insinuating was we're not paid by Amway to be here, but you sure are being paid by all the people sitting in the damn seats. Anyways, if you end up in a situation where people are dressed and look like that, run. Just run. And you will find other people who can be whatever it is you're looking for um in other places. Like that was my biggest fear leaving was like I'm not going to find another stable adult. And I have found other stable, incredible, like far more incredible women that I turn to and I look up to and I like seek guidance from, like actual solid guidance from, who are steadfast, who pick up the phone at 3 in the morning. Um, and so you'll find that somewhere else. You don't have to get roped into an MLM or a leadership cult thing to get it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love
Yep.
your energy. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I am just,
Thanks.
I'm so grateful for your time.
Yeah.
If you guys want to be like Sophia, please DM me on Instagram at xsandt.podcast or email me at DANI at xsandtpodcast.com. So that's Danny at xsandtpodcast.com. I promise I will get back to you. But that being said, I am so grateful for everybody and your time and willingness to listen. You guys can find me on, oh God, where can you guys find me? Spotify, Apple Podcast, everywhere podcasts are heard. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks.